Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stream of Chaos. My name is James, and I will be the GM for today's game of Rivers of London as we go through character creation for our upcoming campaign. I'm joined, as always, by this fantastic cast of folks, and I will get them to introduce themselves just now, starting off with Art.
Hi, I'm Art. I'm still trying to get all of the pieces on my screen together so I know what I'm doing. Um, I'm excited. I have a character concept that I like, and I'm excited to see how it plays out mechanically.
Should be good. Jumping across next, let's go to Jackson.
Hey, I'm also Jackson. I have read all of the Rivers of London canon of works except the RPG. I flicked through the RPG book a little while ago and then went, "Oh, this is a bit spoilery." So I read all of the novels and graphic novels and novellas instead. And so now I'm ready to learn how to play the game.
It's gonna be good. I have some fun tidbits about interaction with the game with bits and pieces of lore. But before we go into that, let's jump across to Dave for Dave time.
Yeah, g'day, and I'm Dave, and I will also be playing one of our Rivers of London investigators, heroes, protagonists.
I believe you are investigators in this as well, or characters,
Cool.
basically. Characters.
Well,
is
then
fine.
I'm in familiar territory.
Exactly. And last but not least, let's jump across to Alex.
Hello, I'm Alex, and I don't know why I'm here, but I'm going to do my best.
Trying.
You're not a deep and detailed expert on the background Rivers of London lore.
I read one book. I read the first book.
That's all you need. You're
And I'm going to read all of the rest because I started another book and it's kind of boring. So I'm going to shelve that one and read the rest
We're
of the Rivers
back.
of London books instead and consider it homework and feel really good about my life choices.
Exactly, doing so much extra work. It's great.
Exactly.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
really
will
responsible.
probably read all of the stuff in the RPG and then probably go deep diving on a wiki to understand like the lore more than I probably will read a book because I don't know how to read fiction anymore. I only know how to put information in my brain.
And comic books.
Yeah, that works.
Well, there's graphic novels
There's
for
graphic
Rivers of
novels.
London, but you can also check out. I think the Follypedia is the wiki of choice. But anyway, let's step off
Perfect
that
notes.
exactly for a second
That
and
is
talk
riddled
about
with spoilers.
it really is. Talk about Rivers of London and what we're doing today, basically. So we have an upcoming campaign for Rivers of London where we're going to be playing through the published material and having a look at everything that the game has to offer. But as part of that, we are going to be doing a character creation stream today. It's going to be a little shorter today because next week we're taking a break for Chaosium Con Australia, which has just really sprung up, but we'll be there. We'll actually be doing a game in person. I have to keep not calling it a stream. It's a live play. They're entirely different. But we'll be doing that.
In a room together,
Yeah.
rolling dice. If you can imagine such a thing. It's never been tried.
Exactly. It's brand new territory.
Any investigators get uppity, the keeper is able to actually physically
Assault them.
Yeah, peanuts
attacks
that you get to throw. No, so
There are two kinds of people.
exactly. We'll be leaping into the campaign following that. But today we're going to go through and we're going to show some of the procedures for creating characters in Rivers of London, as well as talking about the setting a little bit. So if you want an introduction in what the game sort of is, how it fits within the story, or if you're not super familiar with Rivers of London's story, this will hopefully get you started. And you can also see how the system works, because it is using BRP, but it is refined. It is a little bit different. To start off, can I get everybody, I'm going to go immediately around again. We've talked a little bit behind the scenes about what kind of characters people are thinking, and we gave a little teaser of that at the end of the solo scenario we did, the domestic. Let's go around, and I'll get everybody to just quickly give the vague idea of what they're going to play, but we'll probably go in a little bit of a different order. Jackson, I'd like to start with you, if that's all right, for reasons that will become obvious once we get the character pictures.
Well, that's hilarious because, I heard everyone else's character pictures and thought, we don't really have a bog standard wizard. So I guess I'll play the bog standard wizard. So I see why you started with me. Yes.
Exactly.
I'm going to play some kind of Newtonian practitioner, a practitioner being a fancy kind of euphemistic term for a wizard. And Newtonian in that it's kind of it's going to be the posh wizard, Isaac Newton while he wasn't discovering gravity and light and all that other stuff, also kind of figured out how magic works and wrote it all down in a book, which was somewhat hidden, somewhat secret book. It's you can find it if you know where to look for it. But then he founded the Society of the Wise, which is, London and England's wizard club, and that persists to today as the Folly, which is somewhat reduced. In the Rivers of London series, there's only one officially licensed practicing wizard left after they all died in World War II. But yeah, I'm gonna be another one, so that should be good.
Fantastic, absolutely. We'll get back to you in a second to talk some other details about like what kind of background, profession, character you might sort of want to pick, how you came into all of this. But while we're here, asking you just a piece of lore question that's really only going to mean anything to you. As part of the game, you develop your signare, which is your kind of leftover sense impression of your magic. There is Vestigia, which is kind of unique to strong, powerful events, and some creatures can leave it. Events that happen somewhere can leave traces of it. But Signare is the magical element. It's very keenly sort of left by individual wizards, and they can tell each other's. When you are creating a Newtonian practitioner, you are encouraged to take, as one of the segments of your Signare, a recognizable element from whoever taught you. Because the Folly is expanding, you could take the classic, tick-tock of Nightingale.
Of Thomas Nightingale.
Or unspecified.
Yes, I got that. I knew the answer.
Unspecified of Peter Grant, possibly. So have a think about who you might want to have taught you at the Folly. You can also put forward any other practitioner candidates if you would like. Let's go across to Art next. Art.
So, you know how there's my relationship as a player with luck?
Yes.
And like I really quite like holding on to a lot of luck. And in this wonderful game that we're about to play, there is a type of character you could play that uses luck pretty extensively, which, would be difficult for me, I think. But they also regenerate luck daily.
Oh.
So I'm going to be playing a Fae because I thought that was too funny to not do. How much of the character concept are we talking about?
As much as you feel is appropriate.
Great.
A Fae is, yeah.
I am probably, depending on how it all turns out, I'm going to be playing a Fae. My name is Pudding. And my great grandsire was the Fire of London. So my like affinity will be fire, and we'll have a nice little smell of charred burning wood and the smell of baked bread whenever I do a weird thing, which is just going to be setting people's hair on fire. I think is mostly my jam. I am capricious, silly, and like. We'll find out who Pudding is, but you only get to laugh at Pudding's name once, and they will laugh with you, and then you won't have any more hair.
Setting things on fire, and people on fire in particular, is a core part of police work. I'm not sure which police procedural we're quoting for this. There's got to be one out there. A cop who solves crimes with fire. I don't know. I mean,
it does specifically say that Fae are not allowed to use their inherent magic to cause injury. So when I say I set people's hair on fire, it's like, it does the thing where it burns down to the scalp and then like gives them a bit of like that hurt. Like I don't do it. Doesn't. They don't injure people. It also specifically says you can only fuck around with non-living, but I'm going to argue that hair is not alive. So
you just have to pick a hairdresser profession, and you'll be completely fine. Let's jump across. Just quickly, so a little bit of context. Fae, again, being sort of within the context of Rivers of London, a little bit of a large categorical word, not necessarily something that covers a specific type of magical creature. So you can blur the definitions a little bit, but characters who have Fae elements to them get an ability called Luck of the Demimonde, where their luck is equal to their power, and it regenerates daily. So you're encouraged to do all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Also, just because, again, thematics. The time of day that I will choose is just after midnight, because that is when the Fire of London started.
Mhm.
Very good. Very, and I love the historical tie. Let's jump across to Alex next, if that's all good.
I am. Well, I'm playing an accountant. I'm an accountant.
Yeah. Nice and calm.
All right, my
But
turn.
everybody's
I'm
got to
playing-
have a hobby, right? So I like taking photos of stuff, mostly like paranormal stuff, which yeah.
Do you think you hide your work from your colleagues at the big bank you work at, presumably, or the big?
Oh no,
auditing
I'm a
firm?
tax accountant. So I'm like I have my own like tax accountancy, which is how I have so much time to do this police stuff. There's like a couple of months of the year where I'm really flat out, and then the rest of the time I'm just like, does anybody need taxation help?
You also gave a fantastic pitch about how your camera is going to interact with the world, because magic obviously fries technology, which could be difficult for a top photographer, but
Yeah, but I'm a film photographer, obviously. I mean, people just don't appreciate the hands-on craft of it all anymore. So
and this is genuinely something which would be of particular use to the Folly, and you can imagine, fans of the book, how Peter Grant in particular would probably be seizing on every opportunity to try and get documentation of things that can be recorded or photographed, anything like that, without using technology.
Yeah.
We also talked a little bit about you possibly leaning into some magical stuff too.
well, I mean, you can't take photos of paranormal stuff if you never see any paranormal stuff. So you need to kind of start having a bit of a poke around to figure out how to get these things to show up and stay still for you. Especially when you're, a lot of these things happen at night. And you really do need to get them to stay still to get the exposure right. Like it's very challenging if you don't have at least a little bit of the old fairy stuff.
Exactly. Magical powers of some description. Great.
Oh, and if anyone's wondering whether or not I'm gonna be looking up anything on English taxation law, the answer's no.
No, you're not going to get really across.
No.
Doing it in real
See,
life. I'm
All
not
you
doing it in
need
the
to
game.
know is that they have VAT.
No, don't know. No, nope, not
That's it.
interested.
They use ponds over there instead of dollars. Ponds, I think is
Ponds,
pronounced.
ponds, yes, the pond.
20 ponds.
Pond stilling.
Very good.
Ponds.
Wait,
Makes total sense.
Still Pond?
Still ponds.
Still ponds
Still
run
ponds.
deep.
It's the British Still Pond.
There you go.
The banks are full of algae. It's not nice.
Ponds of London. Is there anything? Is there anything there?
Probably.
Stagnant ponds of London.
Last but not least, let's jump across to Dave.
That's me. My pitch after we met a dog in the downtime and the solo scenario was, damn, it'd be cool if I was that dog. And I want to play a gigantic German Shepherd that knows London well and has an innate sense for magic. So I'm intending
Police
to
dog?
lean. I don't think actually police dog. I spoke with Jim a little about this. I think I want to be an ex-guard dog for like a mafia or like criminal sort of element. I was badly wounded and abandoned on the streets of London, and I've survived independently for a short period before tethering myself to one of the other investigators. I think Alex and I had a little discussion about that maybe being her. So I want to be very physical, also like that sort of like innate sense. And I think it'll be kind of fun to try. And I think it's also kind of tropey. It's very suitable to that urban fantasy, the sort of the animal companion. I think it'd be cool to try and play that.
With the police procedural tie-in, this is Inspector Rex, so therefore pulling a top-tier television in. I think
Can I jump in with some hot lore?
Please.
The scenario we played talked about how the Folly has Toby, the ghost hunting dog, who's like a dog sensitive to magic and vestigia. But there is a throwaway line in one of the novels where Peter Grant says, "I'm not sure why Toby can sense magic and dogs. It's probably because of the magical incident he was involved in Rivers of London Book 1, where Toby's owner was killed by a revenant, essentially. That's not a big spoiler. It's like the first third of the book. Don't worry. So there may be like a magical incident in your character's past, Dave, that has left you with a sensitivity. I just realized Toby is actually like a quintessential edgelord RPG character. The owner was killed by a revenant, and ever since that day I've had powers.
But you're playing a
Main
basset hound
character
that
energy
loves
on this like
sausages.
tiny Jack Russell.
Yeah, there's a great picture of Toby in the book, which I think should be shared at this exact moment, just for that, because there are sausages.
It's
There are
not a
sausages.
basset hound. It's a dog called Toby. That's not a basset. That seems
Yeah,
He's a
messed
beagle.
up. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Doctor Strange's ghost dog. Is
Ah.
what I've conflated there.
Toby also invents the yap scale of vestigia power.
Yaps, yes.
Which is like number of yaps for energy. So you might want to come up with something similar. But yes, I think that we talked a little bit about how that could work. Possibly as you're recovering, you spend some time near an area that is
Near a
infused with
church or
magic.
something. It could have
And-
also been what actually attacked there's the classic of like the crime element that's trying to edge into the magical world. Oh yes, my urban fantasy background is the Dresden Files, which I've read all of. So that's kind of the angle I'm coming into, and I'm just going to keep on jamming that in until it works.
I think the Dresden Files get a name check in at least some of this sort of inspirational material. It might have been
Same
in an
hat.
interview with Lynn, but I think that Alex, potentially your character could have been going to a church to photograph weird stuff, and you meet a dog there. So I think it's there's a perfect link. Anyway, let's move on to character creation.
Let's do it.
As I mentioned, BRP is the underpinning system for Rivers of London. It's very similar to Call of Cthulhu, but the Rivers of London system uses a couple of basically streamlined areas in some parts, and then fleshes out things in terms of magical interactions and stuff like that. You can think of the combat as just sort of being a bit lighter, effectively. There's levels of damage instead of direct health. And it's also a lot more forgiving than Call of Cthulhu. You're not rolling sanity whenever you do something, and there are also a variety of ways that you can sort of pull yourself back from the brink. You tend to heal a little quicker. It's a bit more relaxed in that sense. You can find the character sheets for Rivers of London, anybody who wants to check it out at home, on chaosium.com. There's a pack that contains various versions if you're playing a Fey character and something like that. There's also an auto-calc sheet, which is form fillable, so you can put everything in like that. Our investigators, characters, have access to these sheets, and we're going to go through the steps of character creation broadly. The first thing you do in Rivers of London is you pick an occupation, similar to Call of Cthulhu. This even comes before your characteristics, because the number of skill points that we use are not going to be influenced by our characteristics in the same way they are for Call of Cthulhu. So we don't need to worry about our education score potentially changing the number of skills that we have. There is a pretty wide occupation list, and they come with a recommendation of different skills that you might have access to. But broadly speaking, these are exactly the kind of thing you would expect to see in everyday life. They are normal jobs that come up for everybody. Reading a couple of samples from the list, there's architects, artists, athletes, authors, members of the clergy, criminals, dilettantes, drivers, entertainers, firefighters, journalists, lawyers, librarians, paramedics, parapsychologists.
Influencer.
Exactly. Private investigator, influencer is one. Service member, social worker, special agent, tradesperson. So some of these pulled directly from things that you'll recognize in the Call of Cthulhu occupation list. But generally, these are sort of vibes, and we can pull... if you have sort of an idea of what your character's background was specifically, we can put it into one of these tins. The only thing that is worth noting is that there are suggested occupations, basically, suggested skills related to your occupation. So if you want to pick, for example, being a librarian, you better know a little bit about books. Does anybody have sort of some general thoughts? We know that, Alex, we know you want to be an accountant.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
So, well,
I think...
Oh, after you, please.
No.
Okay. You're not sure if you want to lean in that direction. It's not.
I mean, I do, but if they don't have it on the list, then
Well,
it's going to make it harder.
It's journalist.
Journalist works if you want to pick that, and that's also going to give you some skills. Basically, it's not super important in terms of your you're not going to be asked to roll an accountancy check in the same way. So you can very easily use something like lawyer as well. Would be totally fine if you just want to have sort of an angle on legal procedures. But it sounds to me like journalist is going to suit you pretty well.
Let's do that.
Okay, perfect. What about everybody else? Jackson, do you have an idea of what you might have been before you came into wizardry? Presumably a police
Uh,
officer.
yeah, I think I'm tempted to just go, yeah, bog standard. Magic cop, as
Yeah.
as per the books.
All right. Yeah.
Like, oh, my castmates are just going a river, going funky, and I'm like, they're good books. Let's do it as the author
Yeah.
intended.
Classic for a reason. Exactly.
Yeah. I just want to go
According to the
plain old
scripture.
Rivers of London vanilla. Essentially, I'd be happy to be a magic cop.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the next questions, and I'll leave you to sort of ponder this a little bit, is going to be things like what led you to the police force, for example. Like why did you become a cop? Did you have family that also were cops, or did you come into it? What sort of background do you think there is? You have an affluence rating, which sort of factors into your standard of living, and that is something that is important in the context of the game and stuff like that. One thing that's cool about Rivers of London as well is that it tries to be sort of a very multicultural game. Basically, the protagonist of the series, Peter Grant, has a Polish background on one side and background from Sierra Leone on the other. So it really tries to explore all kinds of different sort of milieus. If you want to be from anywhere in the world, absolutely feel free to pull that in. There are all sorts that come to London. Jump aside for a second, because Bay jobs can be a little difficult. Art, what are you thinking? You can say, because you can drift. The quintessential character in the books is Zachary Palmer, who is a little bit of a drifter.
They have a role for that. It's called a chancer.
Exactly. Yes.
So I suspect that is where I will go. I did have a brief moment where I was like, wouldn't it be fucking funny if I was either a firefighter or a librarian? Because both of those not good with fire. But I think based on like I had a look at both of those, and I don't know that their skill lists necessarily call to me as much. Whereas Chancellor just seems to be a good, like, you're just a bit of a shit.
The
You
skills
just
seem to be very just recommendations from my right.
there is
Yes.
each of the ones has a required. So for the
Okay.
librarian, it's research, and for the firefighter, it's athletics.
But
So like
it's just a knock in that direction, from what I understand. So you're able to pretty quickly customize and move forward into basically whatever skill set you would like, which is why you can take journalists and then still really only have kind of a nod in that direction.
yeah. Just want to see if I can find the where's the thing that lets me go to see that. There we go, page 62. Yeah, I don't have a good answer right now. I think chance is probably what I'm going to lean towards, because like their required skills are observation and stealth, and like their other ones are things like sleight of hand, which I feel is going to be helpful for that. I could also go down entertainer,
Yeah.
because street magician kind of vibes, just someone who's like throwing cards around, doing fun tricks.
Artist could potentially work for you as well. You've got a few options. I'll leave you to think about it. One thing I'll also just put in your head now, because you might talk about it in a bit, is what your relationship to fire is, in terms of obviously the great grand something of the Fire of London. It can make sense that you're very into fire. You might also fear it intensely or something like that. You could, because there is a lot of sort of pain and panic associated with the fire. Something for you to play with. I leave that in your court.
I'm curious because I know that there's an affinity to things, and very specifically, like, usually the affinity suggests that you like create a thing. It's unclear whether you can also use your affinity to nullify a thing, or whether that would be a separate affinity.
I think it would be dependent on which angle you wanted to go. So I would say it's if you are if you were a representation of the Fire of London that is sort of, wow, a lot of people were trying to put this out, you might go one way, whereas if you were more about this sort of uncontrolled blaze nature,
I think based on where my brain's at, I'm gonna play a Chaos Goblin. So I think it's very much like, the fire is a thing that exists in nature. It's not necessarily inherently destructive, as in like it's not inherently. It's not evil. Sorry, is what I meant. It is destructive. It's not inherently evil. It's not inherently bad. it is capricious. It's very much like it depends on where the winds blow as to what it does and how bad it gets.
Yep.
So having a character that's just a bit like flighty and capricious and not necessarily evil, but not necessarily thinking about how things impact other people, which fits very well into like the Fae concept in my brain.
I love it. It's great. Jumping last across to Dave, criminal could work for you, which has no required skills.
So I was also thinking Chancer, but criminal's probably the one I'm landing on. Fortunately, literally every one of these is funny if you just picture a dog doing it. I also thought firefighter was fun. I could be a Dalmatian. I liked paramedic for being an ambulance chaser, and I just go bork bork when they go past. Influence is good if I'm like Pomeranian that's
Instagram dog.
I'm just a huge meme.
It's all very there is no bad choice here.
Driver.
So yeah, I really can't go wrong. I just think about farmer too, and I'm just like a sheepdog in the city. I think I'm settling on criminal though. It ties to my backstory and it gives me the appropriate skills I think I'd like for the character. So I think I will be a criminal.
Fantastic. I think that works totally. So we've got criminal, we've got police officer. Alex, you're still thinking journalist?
I think journalist works.
Okay, fantastic. And Art, Chancer?
Look, I'm still, yes, probably. My brain is still a tiny bit sitting on, but maybe firefighter. That was way too funny to not
pretty
do.
funny.
Yeah, I mean,
firefighter's pretty good. It does ground you a little bit too. Like I like that a lot.
It's a tie to the emergency services as well, which would link you into the story,
helpful.
and there would absolutely be a case of the fire service sort of knows that you tend to be around the site of a few fires. They've realized that you're not an arsonist, or at least not in the criminal sense. And there's maybe you maybe one of the ways that you get sort of a living is that you work part-time with them a little bit. You don't necessarily need to be a full official to the line firefighter, but you could be associated a little bit. You're the person who deals with the weird bollocks in the fire service.
Yeah, I am. I also have no idea whether or not I'm gonna do a bit more reading. I'm curious whether the phase affinity allows them to exist more comfortably within spaces that would be uncomfortable. So a lot of the water fae are they just go and hang out in the water. I don't know if they can breathe underwater. Jackson, that's probably a question for you.
It's heavily implied. Isn't it?
They leave it a bit, they don't go into the mechanics of it, but yes, the
or
river spirits
it's something of
just hang out.
You
Heavily
can go
implied.
underwater and maybe they can hold their breath longer than your average person. So
one of the things as well is it's important here to Fae is a broad term, as we mentioned, to draw a line between genius locorum, the titular river of London, and somebody who is just Fae. There are worlds between all of this and various different interpretations. Fans of the books will think, Zachary Palmer compared to Molly, for example, is already a wealth of difference, and they're effectively just Fae. Although I think technically they mentioned Molly's a high Fae at some point. I'm not entirely sure.
But the point
Molly's
is, Fae
something
is
else.
is such a broad term, and they go back into the library and all the wizards from the last 300 years. Every now and then they start trying to categorize them and put labels on them in the way that hoity-toity scientists and academics do, and they never come up with a system that actually works because magic doesn't work like that, and people don't work like that. More importantly,
Yes.
So Fae is just anyone who's born into magic or touched by magic, but there's no rules for any of this. Is the impression I get.
So I suppose the point would be, yes, we'll flavor it within the scope of the standard curve of character power.
if
basically.
I go stand in a bonfire for 10 minutes, I'm gonna end up ashy. If I'm in a really if I'm walking through a smoke-filled area that's very hot, it's gonna be uncomfortable. I'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Liberal application of bonus dice whenever the temperature gets a little stuffy. So, fantastic then. Firefighter looks like this is an approximate direction. So what we do now, basically, is we have our occupations. This is the fundamental step because everything else is built out from this. The next thing we do is we need to decide our characteristics. There's no rolling here. And we have 4 characteristics that we need to work with. We have strength, dex, intelligence, and power. We're going to take a pool of 280 points, and we are going to distribute those points between those 4 stats. You've got a floor of you've got a floor of 30, so you don't want to go under that, and you've got a peak of 80. The higher the stat, the better it's going to be. Your average human is put in at 50. If you're a Fae, you're probably want to have relatively high power because that's going to interact with your luck of the Demimon mechanic. If you're a wizard, you're also probably going to want to have pretty high power because it's going to let you do magic. Although if the magic to you is sort of only part of what you do, you've got other things, you might not necessarily want to have that high. David, the rules will light on if you're a dog, but I'm thinking strength and dex might be in your wheelhouse.
I was like, there's constitution as well. There's fire.
Oh yes, sorry, thank you.
I was gonna say, if we divide 280 by 4, it's 70 in each.
Yes,
that seems excessive.
As I was saying it, I was like, I've written down something wrong here. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, strength, dex, con, intelligence,
56
power.
is
you have
like
5,
if you...
and you're going to split it across that.
I have tentatively put mine at 80 dexterity and 30 intelligence for my fan work, and I'll tinker with it from there as we go.
Fantastic. That's actually a great way to do it. Maybe we all just start with sort of one defining thing. Is everybody going to be putting really high on 1 or really high on 2, or maybe define yourself by something that's going to be lower than everything else?
They have a couple of like blocks. Like a fairly average character looks like this. Strengths and weaknesses look like this. Extremes look like this.
Yeah.
So
I did the strengths and weaknesses one.
Yeah, I will probably
do
do
with how that
strengths
came out.
and weaknesses. Yeah. Because I'm absolutely putting my power at 80.
That's
As expected.
Entirely fair.
Like, I don't know what's going to be my dump stat, but we'll find out.
Perfect. Jackson, you're going to go massive power?
Yeah, plenty of power. I'm just thinking, just to balance out the party. Maybe my police officer ended up in data entry.
Yeah.
There's
Not real physical.
At the very start of the books, I'm not sure exactly how it works, or if this is also how the Metropolitan Police works. But it's like you go through academy, you go through probation, and then you get sorted into a house. Like the commanding officer decides which department or which kind of unit you're best suited for. And everyone wants to get into, homicide investigation, serious crimes, and no one wants to get into data entry. And so I think maybe that's where my character was. And so maybe he's not so good in the physical, but plenty of intelligence to spare.
No, that makes total sense.
Makes me buff. I like being buff. Let's be beefy. We're a beefy accountant.
Why not? Ready to
Lord.
coming out just jacked in a white shirt that's way too tight. Like, let me do your taxes.
I mean, you've got like the camera holster thing going on. We're like,
this is fantastic. Oh, and you've got a giant dog as well. I just want to point out.
I'm the world's most intimidating accountant.
You should drive a really over the top car. Like you've got like
no, we've got a smart car. This is London.
Smart car with a huge dog in it and a massive buff. All right, love
just
it.
looking miserable in the back seat.
This
fucking sucks.
Far cry from the cool cars that your old criminal owners used to have. All right, fantastic.
Yeah, you missed the town car.
I like chewing leather, not this plastic shit.
It's no fun at all. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to generate our luck. Everybody except for Art. Your luck is fixed, whatever your power is. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll 2d10 and add 50 to it to generate our luck. A little different than the Call of Cthulhu model of 3d6 times 5. But you're still going to end up with something in the vicinity of 50 to 70.
Big Jim, would you mind rolling 2d10 for me?
Absolutely.
I think this is about the only roll we need to make.
That is true. I'm going to fire that through.
Big number, please.
Oop. 2d10. I always just rolled 1d100 out of complete habit. A 10. I got you dead average. You have 60 luck.
1 under average.
Yeah, you are right. Did
take
better
it.
than Jackson, so you can take that.
Sorry, what was the maths?
Your 2d10 plus 50.
Times. Oh, plus 50. Great.
Oh, not so great. You are a little unlucky. Well, you did end up in accountancy. No. I believe someone in chat said that they were currently studying accountancy. It's not a barb, I swear. Accountancy is a critical trade. Then we can move on to the next
what
step.
are we adding anything to that? Sorry,
You
is
add
that-
50 to it. So if you roll a 6, your luck is just going to be
56.
at 56. The next step along is that we need to actually determine skills. In Call of Cthulhu, this would be a much more involved process because we would go down and we would actually individually put out the various points. You can balance things and stuff like that. In Rivers of London, it's a lot quicker, and we basically have tiers that skills can be at instead of the like individual points that you can buy. One thing I will quickly say before we go further is that language skills have a little bit of a separate thing. You can learn additional languages, but as well as having your own language as a skill that you automatically get at one of the highest tiers, if you are from a bilingual family, you can just take whatever that extra language is. So when you are designing your character, feel free to keep that in mind. You can choose an additional skill if you would like. How we decide on the skills is that there are a collection of common skills, and then there are a collection of expert skills. Common skills start at 30%, and expert skills start at 0. When we create our characters, we are going to choose 6 skills. These have to include any that are required for our backgrounds, and the rest can be from anywhere. They can be common skills, or they can be professional skills or combat skills. And you can boost those up. So they will go from 0 to 30 if they are a professional skill and they're starting at 0, or they will go from 30 to 60 if they are something that you already have a basic grounding in. The only difference is that our wizards are going to be assumed to be taking the magical advantage. That is going to immediately set your sense fastigia skill to 60. It's as part of taking that advantage you do that.
Nice.
Yes.
They also have default sense vestigia. I think it's 60%.
At 60%? Okay, that's good
I
to know.
believe
Yeah.
so.
I can
I'll double check.
Please go right ahead. Sense Vestigia is a common skill. The
Yes.
default level
All
is...
Fey investigators begin the game with sense vestigia skill at 60 due to their inherent nature.
Okay, fantastic.
Does that count as a skill that I've taken, or is it just one that sits there because that's an ability?
If you start with it automatically, I think it's going to fall under the same effect as the wizards, who are going to have it boosted up without it costing one of their skills. Now, one of the things we were talking about, Dave, is giving you a little bit of extra sense vestigia because you're a magic sneaking dog. But
I was just going to put the points in it.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh yeah, you're right. I guess I could just be pretty mundane. It's not really critical. If 2 of our characters have it out of the gate. Although Alex, we were thinking maybe I could just be a dog.
That I think you can absolutely lean in towards.
I think I am going to take it. I've got plenty of skills that I'm not taking because they don't make sense. The old research skill is not going to be real high.
Fair enough.
Drive, no thumbs.
Well, more to the point, what I think we'll do to try and sort of mitigate some of that is we'll probably give you some additional advantages. And then also you're going to have a bunch of situations in which you can turn being a dog into something.
I'm trying to, I'll see how far I can get vanilla. Just basically being like, I'm an investigator and these are weak points. And then if I feel like it's not adding up, I'll holler.
Yep. All right. Perfect. Let's move forward.
Where's the list of expert skills? The comment or experts like just as stated.
I believe that there is a list of expert skills. Let me get the paged reference for you. They start on page.
Skills, found it.
Got it?
Thank you.
All right, fantastic.
87 for anyone else. I found accounting, first one, Alex. Good news.
Woo!
Get ready to take it.
I'm going to take animal handling.
There's demolitions.
Shit.
Demolitions.
Wait, what? What page is this on?
87.
87, yeah.
87.
And it goes through. Yeah, they
Expert skills.
Oh, in chapter 2, skills. Yeah, that's probably, yep. Cool.
These skills are relatively self-explanatory. It's a similar thing as any other TTRPG called.
I'm sorry.
You can make arguments.
I just saw a skill.
Which
demolitions.
Yes, it's there right at the top, available.
Oh, I love it.
But why would you take that when you can take pilot boat? Which we are in London, so there is
Obviously, I'm
genuinely
having
a
accounting.
decent amount of river vessels and things like that you can be jumping on board.
I need to understand how skills work. I was half listening through all of that. I'm not gonna lie.
That's all right. I'll go through
Choose
once
6
more.
of them, put 60 in it.
What? Choose six of them.
Choose 6 of them, put 60 in it. Like it's
and then
starts at
everything else
60.
is either 30 or 0.
Everything else basically don't worry about until we get to it, I think.
Yep.
You begin with a freebie for the sense fastigia.
We'll also do
a
refinement pass of these off stream where we just go through and make sure that all the numbers are correct. But that's not the riveting content that the audience is here for. So if you basically just want to have a think about the larger space, if anyone does see demolitions or cryptography or anything else and go, damn, this is the time.
I can go
Cryptography. Heck yeah.
Yes, please.
Sorry, go on.
Let's go.
So for my common skills, I've taken athletics, observation, and sense fastigia. I thought about read. The other ones I was tossing up was like read person and stealth. I think I'm not a sneaky. I think I'm just a dog. Like that's my strategy is be dog.
Yeah.
And read person, I think that's someone's good. So and I've got fighting at 60 as well. Then for my experts, I've elected for survival and track. So in place of like navigation, I think it's more get the scent and follow it. And I've also spent a few rough nights out. Like I don't necessarily stay at home. I can stay outside and things like that.
You are going to be fantastic
pretty well.
Stakeouts, which is something that and genuinely we'll.
I'm
also...
just excited because it's got the word steak in it. And I think that's possibly relevant.
And as we said in the solo scenario, it's always established that they get a bunch of snacks for every stakeout. So very important. That'll be perfect. We'll obviously pay the stealth, like the track elements that you use. You can, you have a super sense of smell, so you'll be able to do all kinds of
and it's also
things.
represented through the skill points I put into. Yeah, I'm pretty happy for those reflected.
All right, fantastic. So, jumping across, then, does anybody else have a sense of at least the broader strokes or any particular interesting professional skill they might be picking up?
Cryptography isn't in the police officer list.
It's
not.
I'm heartbroken.
Well,
However,
are you doing full recommended skills? Because you can.
I took that as recommended.
It's recommended.
You
Oh,
only
that's
have to
fine.
say. You only.
I was not listening very much. Excellent. Good to know.
So the only ones you have to take is the required skills. The recommended suggest you can do this, but you can flavor things. So obviously, if you are in data entry in the police, you might be a little, less well trained in like defensive driving, something like that.
I think that's fine.
All right, Alex,
mine is all still loading, so I haven't.
Fair enough.
But so we're picking 3 of the.
So you're as an accountant. Your implied one that you need to take is let me just confirm for you.
Yeah.
I believe it is as a journalist rather. As I flip through pages frantically.
Yeah.
As an I went immediately looking for accountant and lost it. And I was like, no, I'm looking for journalist. What am I doing? As a journalist, your required skills are research and social. Right? So that would be 2, leaving you with 4, which you can basically put onto anything else.
Well, that's going to be athletics because I'm Lord.
Athletics. You could also take accountancy if you genuinely want to have that as a background.
Are these only expert skills? So
athletics is a common skill. So this is for everything. These are the common skills that you are boosting, and this is also the professional skills that you might have acquired. So you start with 30 in something if it's a common skill. Otherwise, professional skills are at 0. So the stuff like, for example, sleight of hand, which is a professional skill, you have 0 in that. You can't really attempt it unless you have at least a basic grounding in it. Although you can have a red hot crack at things. As we've seen, you can try and just try your luck at something and potentially get a basic skill in it.
Photography doesn't seem to be listed, but that's okay.
I think that the option for that is art and craft. Which
Yeah,
you
but
could
I think I
take.
might actually go science with like a chemistry sort of thing for the development of stuff.
Science, chemistry, that sounds totally fine. I suppose that art and craft does kind of cover, like, it leans into the craft angle. You may want to think whether your background is actually like scientific to the point of, did you do like a bachelor's or a master's degree or something like that in chemistry, which you totally could have, and that's what could have led to your interest in this, or something to think about.
Yeah. So just to clarify with the common skills, we've got 60 and 2 and 30 and everything else.
No. So with the common skill, so all common skills start at 30. You have 6 choices of skills, be they professional or common, that you are going to put up to 60. You need to use 2 of them, one on research and one on social. That is your background as a journalist. But the rest you can put across.
Because
anything.
I'm just doing photographer, I don't really feel like the social fits.
I'm very happy for you to change that. It is.
I was going to put it
just
as
a guide.
observation.
That makes total sense to me. Yep.
Yeah.
Is this no social team?
Oh,
a little
I'm
bit.
almost certainly taking social, and I'm probably going to take the advantage silver tongue.
Oh, very good. Okay.
I'm also probably
goodness.
going to
And
take
then
the
light
advantage.
the hair on fire, or
I was
go
gonna
around?
potentially pick up 2 advantages, which we haven't talked about yet.
Do
But
you
I
not need
was
to
kind
spend the
of
advantage for Fae, or is that the?
no, you still
You get it. You
Yeah,
get it
that's true.
inherently. I was wrong.
because
about
I don't get magic. Like I don't
Gotcha.
have the ability to do magic. I don't have magic points. There's like
You're also bound by conventions of being.
also
Fae.
like
Good
my
vibes.
magic can't do damage. So like I'm not nothing that it's levery stuff.
It's similar to if there's no requirement to take the advantage dog, because it comes with significant extra sign on.
Exactly. We have a dog.
I was probably going to take the advantages, probably silver tongue, and the other one being the knowledge, because the Fire of London kind of went through a shitload of streets of London. You're gonna know them pretty well, so that is because I've got navigate of 60 as well.
That's a good option. It's also something I could potentially see our dog having. Why don't we move
I
on?
looked at it. I'm not taking that one. And Cries of Navigation, I think I'm going more track. I follow things rather than find. Like if you say, take us to the train station, follow that man to the train station.
Let's go through advantages now, because that's the next step along in the process. We can finalize the skill picking off stream. Advantages are one of the big things that allow you to customize your character in Rivers of unfortunately, the magic advantage locks you into that. So that's what you do. Enjoy. In all seriousness, though, there are 2 types of advantages: major advantages and minor advantages. Major advantages, you can pick 1 of at character creation. Minor advantages, you can pick 2 of at character creation, in lieu of having a major advantage. Magic is a major advantage, so that is the only one you can take.
Do people like develop magic later in? Like, so if, say, Alex didn't take magic now and then during play wanted to become a wizard, is that possible, or is this something you're born into?
No, you absolutely can. So from a lore perspective, you definitely aren't born into magic. You're born into being Fae, but there are also things that can happen that would, like, I don't know, classify you as a Fae. So it again, broad definition. How development points work, which is the way that you characters kind of gain experience in the world and can add all kinds of new abilities. You can, when you get development points, you can spend them on either boosting your individual skills. You boost them in increments of 5 or 10. Whenever you spend a development point, you can either get 10 percentage points in one skill, or 5 percentage points spread out. And then you can also either learn and master spells as you go, or you can purchase advantages at a rate of 10 per major advantage and 5 per minor advantage. So you could learn magic by expending 10 development points. That is a quite an investment of experience. The thing that immediately jumped into my head, old TTRPG reference, is that it would be similar as trying to spec into a Jedi from playing a scoundrel in any of the TTRPG.
Spends you a while.
Yeah.
Takes you a while.
Yeah. Spends your experience, takes a while.
Just a more efficient sentence the way I said it.
Mm.
So I'm looking at taking Jim. How much is there going to be a bit of smacking? We're going to get in a bit of a rough and tumble.
Absolutely. Well, yes, absolutely.
I'll get us into the rough and tumble.
Strictly speaking, you should try to avoid as much as you can, but there's going to be rough and tumble. There's all kinds of weird stuff out there, and you got to.
Or as I call it, woof and tumble.
Rough is also a dog word, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
So I'm looking at taking signature weapon teeth
as
a chomp and natural toughness.
Okay.
I'd also like to possibly make a case for, given through my criminal elements, having like a metropolitan stab vest is an item you can get. I would like to have like doggy armor stowed somewhere in the car that should things be squaring up, I can be strapped into and then I can get in them since I can't use guns and things like that.
Do you want it to be like a it's nominally sort of just a particular chunky vest, or is it actually like you are, you were used for dog fighting or something?
I was trying to make a case for both of these. I have a dog. I have thicker hide. I have a natural. I'm trying to make a case for also possibly getting access to a stab vest to stack on top of that for like square up, and now I can run at the.
No, sorry, I totally understand what you mean. Totally fine for both of those. In terms of the stab vest, did you want to flavor it as like something that normal people would give to a dog, but it is like it just happens to do that, or is it properly because you might have been used for dog fighting or something like that? Is it like actual armor, kind of like?
I think it's actual armor. I was employed to like patrol a house, and if someone tries to come over the gate, I try to eat them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think they gave me some protection for that purpose.
That makes total sense. I'd be completely happy with all of those. I'm just going to read, for the benefit of those following at home, a bunch of these advantages that are in place. So some of the ones that are available, you can have connected, which is going to give you all kinds of strings you can pull in various places. Damage bonus, increased damage, fast reactions, magical, a major advantage. Natural toughness, which is what we've just discussed that our dog will take. Rich, a major advantage. It is as good as being magical. Scary, signature firearm, signature weapon, silver tongue, speedy, steadfast, the knowledge, wealthy, which is different to rich.
But Jackson and I can really only choose magical, can't we?
Yes, unfortunately, the two of you are locked out here. But on the plus side, we're about.
Well, I actually can't because I didn't put power in. My power is not.
Oh, your power isn't high. Well,
so I have to change. So I have to go back now and change all my stats, which affects the next thing that I do. So
there you go.
Please hold. This kind of
Take
changes
your time.
everything.
I'll leave you to think.
Well, I don't have to think. I just have to redo all the math.
Fair enough. But what we'll also do is we will in a second we'll be jumping across to spells, which is going to keep the other two put to one side for a second. So let's to Art. Do you want to go through a little bit about what you're thinking in terms of individual advantages?
Yes. I'm going to keep the knowledge because that makes sense. And I have both intelligence and navigate at 60. The other one that I'm going to take, I will because Silver Tongue is fun. Actually doesn't make as much sense. I might pick that up later. I'm going to take fast reactions, which is dex at 60, which means you can't be outnumbered and you are very quick, which makes sense for me for this like capricious, flighty, fiery kind of person. Who is, I still want to be like, sociable and affable, but I think Silver Tongue something I can work towards. Fast reactions and the knowledge seem to be like the two that make the most sense based on like the very beginning grounding blocks of the character. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Have we talked through what both of those do?
Yeah, let's have a chat through them. Do you want to introduce them?
Yeah. Fast reactions has a prerequisite of your dex being at 60. And you are fast in combat, allowing you to make 2 fight back responses using either melee or firearms or magic, which probably means I should just take a firearm skill because I don't have that currently. And because of your fast reactions, your enemies gain no benefit from outnumbering you. So you essentially cannot be outnumbered. It's good. Especially for me, who's going to have a strength of 30 and be like, please don't hit me. I feel like most of my skills are GTFO, you can't hit me, I'm literal fire. Because if you've tried to hit a fire, it just hurts and it doesn't really do much. And the other one is the knowledge. And I really love this description, so I'm just going to read it. London taxi cabbies are renowned for their ability to navigate around the labyrinthian streets of England's capital city. They must even take a test to prove they can do so, the so-called knowledge. Your character might not be a taxi driver, but you know how to find your way around. Nominate the city or area. You get a bonus die on navigate skill rolls whenever you're in that location. So I'm going to take the knowledge London.
Fantastic. It would be a remarkable decision to take the knowledge something else.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the knowledge London 1666, but that doesn't feel all that helpful.
I'm pleased to say there is a Tom Scott video about this, where he tries to race a London taxi driver, and he's using GPS, and the taxi driver is using the knowledge, and of course the taxi driver trounces him. It's really fascinating.
Tom Scott is essential research for the Rivers of London games. Yeah,
100%.
You also want to watch the AirTag race video. Great stuff. No, that's fantastic. All of that makes sense to me. I like it. And with that, I think we'll move across now, leaping into magic, which is the next step. So this is going to sideline our two non-wizards for just a moment. I'm going to start off with you, Jackson, just to buy Alex a little bit more time to continue to stat wrangle. But it's okay.
I'm also catching up, but that's okay.
That's all right. It's totally fine because some of the decisions have been made for you. You are a Newtonian practitioner, which means that you already have some implied rules that absolutely stick. So
I love rules. This is perfect for me.
Brilliant. So when you're doing magic, basically, you have a default starting package where you have there are order spells, and you can think of these as like a spell level. They're basically the degrees of power. Bringing in the lore, this is when you start to combine different Latin terms in flexi and all the rest of it to start to build out your spells. But you get 2 first order spells, and you get 1 second order spell. Since you are a Newtonian practitioner, you have learnt things the way the Society of the Wise like to do it. So one of your first order spells is Wearlight, and it is begins as mastered. So when you pick a skill to be mastered, this means that you get a bonus die to casting it, and when stuff is getting hectic, you're able to cast it without a penalty die. If someone is attacking you, magic requires a lot of concentration, so until you've mastered something, you're really not so good at casting it under duress, which means that Fireball or something like that can actually be quite unreliable unless you're really good at it. When you're spending development points, you can learn new spells or you can master ones that you already have access to. You're also going to be able to pick one other first order spell and then one other second order spell. Alex, you're going to get access to the same scope, except you're going to be able to pick both of the first order spells that you want to learn because you kind of came at magic from a different perspective, even though you have since begun to learn things under the way of the folly or a little bit under their guidance. I'm going to read through the first order spells, and we've seen some of these in the solo scenario that we did, and I can talk about any of the others. They are Aqua, Flashbulb, Impello, Noisemaker, Rock Drill, Cinderer, Snapdragon, Terror, and Wearlight. Right? A lot of stuff to throw at people, but basically, talking through it very quickly, Aqua is an expulsion of water. Flashbulb is sort of a kind of flash grenade.
That's hilarious
effect.
as a photog. Like,
yeah, that's actually really good. I didn't think
light
of that.
your scenes.
Yeah. Impello is a burst of force applied to something. Noisemaker and Rock Drill are a little special. They require prerequisites, essentially. So you need to already have access to one of the other spells in the list. But they do what sounds like is on the tin. Cinderer is holding something in place. Snapdragon is an interesting spell which pulls in a little bit of extra deep Rivers of London lore. That is implied to be a spell taught by the Society of the Rose, which is one of the other kind of It's the antithesis of the Society of the Wise. Kind of.
It's
Well,
fantastic. The Society of the Wise started out, they were going along, and then they outgrew their coffee shop meeting place, and so they needed to find a building where they could actually have a clubhouse. And they got a deal from like some like politician or noble or something to get them a clubhouse. But their patrons said, okay, but women can't join. We can't have ladies in here. You can have this house, this building, but no women allowed. And so all the female practitioners went, fuck you guys, and went off and formed their own society. And that's the Society of the Rose with their own kind of slightly different system of magic. It's so great.
yes, exactly. And there's all kinds of different powers that come from that tradition. I would suggest, although you're absolutely welcome to lean into this, Alex, if you would like to have some kind of attachment to the Society of the Rose.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, I'm very happy to explore that. I feel like it seems that that's something we could potentially explore in the campaign if you find connections to that sort of thing. Then jumping back just to the last ones, Terra is generating some earth. So it's useful if you need to throw rocks at people on short notice. And Wear Light, which is the spell that you automatically start off with mastered, Jackson, is creating a small ball of light just above your hand, very in the vein of kind of Lumos or something like that from the Harry Potter verse, or any kind of light spell in D&D where you just touch something and get it to glow. It has a bunch of extra uses in the Rivers of London universe. You can use it to feed ghosts, for example, things that sustain themselves on Wear Light. And we saw that in the solo scenario where you can generate one in your hand and then have things kind of appear around. Any thoughts on what your extra one might be, Jackson, and what you're thinking, Alex, in terms of flashbulb sounded like it had caught your
I'm taking
attention.
flashbulb as the one that I've mastered, and then I'm going to take Sindere.
Okay, brilliant. So
Stay still and let me take a picture of you.
that's so good because literally you throw something into the air and hold it, and then that's so
Look
good.
at the birdie.
You really have no that's so funny. So absolutely, just flashbulb. So some extra context then. When you cast this spell, you can right in front of somebody, you can get them to make a power roll, and if they fail, they become partially blinded for 1d10 rounds. I'll also, while we're going to kind of we'll talk more about this extended mechanics of the world, as in the system, when we actually start playing. But one of the cool things about opposed rolls and combat rolls in Rivers of London is that there isn't a fail condition. For these, it's implied to be a weak success instead of actually a straight out failure. So if you're fighting someone, you are still trying to fight them, but you're just really not making much progress unless you're succeeding. So anybody who does get a regular success is going to do better. Cinderer, we have seen, it allows you to hold something in place. Jackson, any thoughts on what your other first order spell might be?
Sorry, did you say I'm not getting any second order spells? Or
You will get one second order
getting one.
spell, but you also get another first order spell.
Yeah, understood. I mean, it says right there in the text, Impello is usually the second spell that an returning apprentice is taught. So
Yeah,
I am so keen to just like be completely vanilla by the book.
It's like a fighter with a sword and shield, and
well,
right.
well, leading into that, then immediately jumping to
I
the
love
next second order. The only one that doesn't have a prerequisite and that does make sense is shield. If you would like to take shield as your second.
100%. I love that. Yep, perfect.
Okay, brilliant.
No notes.
I absolutely love that. And then Alex, there's a few more second order spells.
Yeah.
What I'll tell you right away is just because you have you've already put yourself basically into a position where you can only use some of them because of the prerequisites that you've chosen. So you have access to shield as well.
Well, I was looking at shield, although I mean Impello gives me fireball, but I don't really want Impello. I think shield is the one I want to go with.
Shield makes sense.
Yeah.
I might go with something else then.
You could go with Wear Light and
shield is
Impello. You have the prerequisites for Car Killer, which is one of the spells that comes up in Rivers of London, designed by Peter Grant.
Yes, of
where
course.
you can take out a vehicle by casting it at something and cut the engine on it.
I do like
Otherwise,
that.
you can go for having Flashlight and Flashbulb and Impello. So that was what I was saying about. Or Wear Light and Impello allows you to take Fireball if you want an offensive spell. You could take Impello Palma, which is just it's the mainstay of every attack that Peter Grant seems to make, but also something, just basically a juiced up version where you can kind of have more control and additional force put behind
It's
it.
Mage Hand.
Yeah, basically. You can have there's invisible catch, allows you to catch things in midair. Light bulb, that's your other option, Alex. It comes with Cinderer and Wearlight. Yeah, it allows you to fix a light in position, so it is kind of.
I want a flashbulb.
Fair enough.
And then I want a shield because I also don't want to. Yeah.
You would get this in addition to flashbulb. Just quickly, this is your second order spell, but
but
totally
I want shield.
That makes sense. And then the only other one you might be interested in, Jackson, is Wandering Light, which requires Impello and Wearlight, which allows you to basically create a bobbing, moving bit of light. Sounds like we're going shields and car killers potentially.
Yeah, I'm thinking Car Killer or Impello Palma. Car Killer is fun. I like it, but I don't know how much I would want to disable electronics.
Well, have
a course of duty. I think this is like my character's like a bit more of a nerd, a bit more of a kind of gaining information kind of thing. So I'm leaning towards Impello Palma, but I shall ruminate on it further.
Okay. Well, you got enough combat from other folks that you probably don't need to, but yes, have a think about it. The other thing I'll mention, just because you brought this up previously, is you mentioned potentially taking a firearm skill. London has additional rules. Firearms.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I would happily take fighting over firearms, but I don't want to be strong. And the fact that there are no abilities to fight using dexterity always kind of like frustrates me. Like, because there are in certain systems you can take weapons that are better with dexterity than they are with strength, so you can still like get a benefit of being more dexterous than more strong. And there are plenty of martial arts styles that actually rely on like an opponent being stronger than you to do damage. So I would actually prefer to take fighting over firearms. It also gives me a better ability to dodge, but it doesn't look like that's actually sensible based on having low strength, which is what I currently have.
It is going to affect the amount of damage that you do. You can try and buy advantages to mitigate that, but it's not huge. We could look at maybe creating a custom advantage or something like that. But the other point is firearms are totally fine. It's just that has a drawback in terms of the context of London. Obviously, the Metropolitan Police don't carry guns, and pulling out a gun is a large escalation. At the end of the day, the game here does you are going to be subject to all kinds of like controls, and if anyone fires a firearm at some point, the amount of paperwork will be ungodly.
What about yeeting tiny silver darts at people?
You can have darts that you throw at people, absolutely.
Because firearms is meant to be like essentially any range. So that was the other angle I was going for, was like essentially I just have small like shuriken that I'm just like, nah, go away, leave me alone. I'm not here.
In the spirit of the game, where bureaucracy is quite forward, any lethal weapon is going to have
bladed
the context
weapons,
of
especially.
there are a lot of knife rules in London. But if the way that you want to fight, if someone comes at you, is you pitch something at them and run, that is totally going to work, and that is also a fairly sensible structure.
I will have a think. Maybe we'll chat about it off stream, but that's like one of the two is going to be 60, but whether it's like dodgy, fighty, like up close, or whether it's yeety, that's gonna come down to like what that looks like.
I love it. Totally fair. So the last thing we do before we move off magic, after magic we will go into a little bit of a more detailed backstory chat before finishing up. Is to look at signare. Now, technically, signare is something that is possessed by, as we established, wizards, but there are absolutely a case of Fae having, some kind of vestigia impression that they give off, and Art made it very, very clear that it's really cool and they would like it. So why not? Dave, dogs kind of have a unique smell. Do you want to get really into describing your wet dog aura or something?
Not
Or-
really, man.
Yeah, that's
You can do that on your own time.
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. So what I might do then is I'll get everybody to. We'll quickly go through some of the vestigia details. Have you thought, Jackson, about what do you want to take Nightingale's TikTok?
There's going to be certainly a bit of that in there.
You're also very meticulous as a character, it seems like.
That's it, yeah. But I'm thinking like,
I also
do you know
have
what
a
it
roll
is? It's
table.
like, it's the, oh yeah, have a look at the roll table. But I want to get like a typewriter in there because
Ooh.
he's like information analyst,
That's
data
cool.
entry. And so it's a similar kind of rhythmic quality to Nightingale's TikTok, but it sounds like an old typewriter.
I love it. That's really great. So
Yeah.
the signara table starts on page 165, if the collection of you would like to look at it. It encourages you to roll or just choose. Basically, if you have an idea in your head, and these are just suggestions again, so really it can be anything that speaks to your character's backstory. Would anyone
There
like
should
to
be
roll?
a sound, smell, and other. You get
Take
one of each?
the recommendation is that you take one of each and that you roll 2 and discard 1. I believe. I'll just double check that I've got that correct.
To create a signare, choose one sound, one smell, and one other sensation from the table.
Yep.
Or roll. Roll on each of the 3 columns. Choose to keep any 2 of them. Discard the third. If you don't like the root, roll again. Choose again.
Basically,
Yeah.
it's vibe, and then you can use these tables as inspiration. So if anyone has an idea of what they might go with, please speak up. Otherwise,
I kind of do. I'm
What
just
was the
having a look
table
at
again,
the.
sorry, Jim?
page
Okay,
165.
Oh god, there's more.
There's a few.
It's a lot. Shit,
Yeah.
there's,
It's a-
this table
it's a
is
D100.
D100. Oh my god, I didn't realize.
Oh,
Holy shit,
now
okay.
we're cooking.
Yeah, I was only looking at the first page and was like, oh, that's not that many options. And then I kept looking. Oh, I love that petrichor makes it onto the list.
I'll tell you what. While we have people thinking about it, just because I want to show off the table a little bit.
Yes.
I'm happy to do some. I'm happy to do. I have a pretty solid idea of what I want some things, but I'm happy to just like roll to get some inspiration as well.
Sure. Well, anybody who wants to throw out a roll, and we'll just see what we get. This would be we'll go one sound, one smell, and one other sensation to show how you can generate one.
Where's my roll 20, so I can just do this.
70 on sound is the fizzing of a newly opened bottle of soda.
That's very fun.
That's
weird but fun.
a very energetic character.
I got 12 for smell.
Smell of 12 is bananas.
Very silly. And then 66.
66 for other sensations is the sensation of rain.
That's
So
cool.
bananas, soda, and rain. I'm
That's
not
very
quite
fun.
sure what character that spells. I don't think they would be associated with the Fire of London necessarily.
Well, that's interesting. So there's if I looked at like the cross line and just took those numbers as inspiration for 3 to mix and match, the smell for 66 is silage. Silage? I don't know what that
66.
is. I'm gonna look it up.
New word.
Gibberish sort of word.
Yeah.
Grass. Or
Grass.
other green fodder compacted and stored in airtight containers, typically in a silo, without first being dried. So it's just the smell of fresh cut grass. That's very fun.
No, not even fresh cut. Like
Stale,
fermented.
fresh cut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
like it's like mulch, I think
Yeah.
is what we'd call it.
Oh, actually, I tell you what, the sound for 66 is pottery breaking, which I think might actually be
Ooh.
quite a good one for
Like
the
a-
sound.
It's like a stock sound effect in any.
Get a
Well, I'm thinking
soundboard.
specifically
Pick a
like,
random one.
because I definitely want my smell to be like freshly baked bread. There's an option in here for it to be like yeasted, uncooked bread, but I like the idea of like this really lovely smell accompanied with the sound of pottery shattering, because that's what happens in fire as things
That's cool.
expand and
That's cool.
shatter. And then I just need to work out what the last one is. I'm specifically avoiding the sensation of like heat, because that's the whole point of what I do.
Yep, that's fair enough.
So I'm gonna have a look at the other two and see if there's one a sensation on 70 or 12 that calls to me.
I've got mine. The
Please.
sound is the buzzing of fluorescent lights.
Ooh,
Mhm.
love it.
The smell is a very strong cup of tea.
Great.
And the sensation is sheets of paper hanging in the dark. So that.
Oh, like actually like knocking into something. That is really good. I love that. I've just seen that Jackson has rolled. I'll get you to talk about what you've rolled in a second. But I
just want to run a smell by everyone. I said freshly baking bread because that's like a weird thing to have in association with something kind of dangerous, which amused me. But I could also make it the smell of burnt toast so that everyone thinks they're having a stroke.
that is an option.
That's very funny.
Yeah, that's 96.
That is
smell.
quite funny.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. My favorite is from the other sensations entry 65, which is the promise of beer and Skittles. But
good time.
there's various. Jackson. Dave. Did you have?
I was gonna say I choose. My sound is a dog barking. My smell is wet dogs. Hang on. Anyone for sensations? I think there's been a dog here.
Violence.
Pick something really out of
dampness.
left field for it, like
Something about like
That's
Goosebumps.
Dogs
fighting.
You are in a fight with a dog.
You are a dog.
dog.
You're getting this real sense impression. It's
Getting a
because
real
the dog
sense.
is biting you.
Getting a real magical sense that this may be a dog we're dealing with.
It is very funny that I had a look at the different columns for that. 12's sensation is a warm fireside. 66's sound was shattering pottery. I'm like, this is fascinating that they actually do match.
At all.
I don't know that I want a warm fireside, but still, I find it fascinating that I'm like, oh, actually, I did roll 3 things that kind of match.
Yeah, it all works. But Jackson, we have a typewriter ticking away.
Yes, and then I'm going to take, I think 84 is what I rolled for both the other ones, which is the smell is time, and the other sensation is loneliness.
Time, loneliness, and a typewriter. The
Jeez.
poor data entry character. So, the color change is the funniest.
Nice.
The funniest thing.
I'm so glad I left that button there.
It's a good one.
Having now done this with 2 consecutive campaigns, how you going? Great.
Yeah, maybe I need to investigate that. Maybe I need to open up why I'm making characters that are not
Not
mentally healthy.
enjoying.
But let's just play
Or
again.
it's
That's fine.
it's escapism, and it's because you're so happy in your everyday life. And everyone
That must
else-
be it. I just got to like turn things down a bit.
Anyway, so I think then this is basically everybody's got the pieces, the bits and pieces. Feel free to give some additional detail as we go. But as a final step, moving away from magic now, we go back to the backstory section. Right? At this point, there are a bunch of really great tools inside the book where it asks you a couple of questions to consider. Things about like what was your childhood like? What does family mean to you? You know, does family mean not much, or did you have a nuclear family? What did home mean to you? Where did you live? It asks you about what you do at the minute. It asks you about what your brush with the supernatural was, potentially, that brought you into things. But since we've talked a little bit about where these interconnections are going to be in the process of creating these characters, I think what we'll do is I'd like to get everybody to reintroduce their character, similar to what we did to at the very start, but now with this extra detail, we've got some of these points. Feel free to add a little more, basically, as we go. So, Dave, do you feel ready to start off? Since
Yeah, sure.
all right, fantastic.
I think I've pretty comradely done all the backstory elements and things too. So,
Brilliant.
I'm Anu playing Lucy. She is technically a criminal, but more practically just a dog. From around London. I am 7 or 61 in dog years. So I previously was employed, I suppose, like bred and trained to protect a sort of criminal family inside London. I sort of patrolled the grounds and things like that. when there was like a breaking in or something, I would like run up and like grab them in teeth, and the rest would deal with it. I think in one of these I got shot. And I was not well enough to like, it wasn't worth recovering. They had enough of them. So they did the like, we'll just dump her on the side of the road and she'll just die out there somewhere. That solves that problem. I refused to do that. And I survived for some time since. And you and I spoke about this briefly. I think my touch with the supernatural is I found my way to like a church on the outskirts of town where a friendly man who I've got in my contacts as Munchie Man, fed me and tended to me and brought me back to life. And it was through that that I was able to recover. And then ultimately I met up with Alex's character, who I now stay with and help to get in contact with the supernatural, as well as just kind of protect, because that is my like nature, and to investigate and find people. And I can very much follow commands. I think in one of the times when I then sort of like, led her back to this place where I was healed, you would find it was like a fully abandoned church, like long dead, no one there. And the person, my contact, is a ghost who helped me out and helped me to recover.
Absolutely love it.
My advantages, disadvantages, just to quickly go through. I have signature weapon, teeth. Jim, attacking with unarmed, unless you have like brass knuckles, is 0 damage. I'd like to make the case that my teeth are 1 damage, and this increases it to 2. I've kind of I keep them strapped.
That is totally
stay
fair.
on me. I got natural toughness. Skills we spoke through already. Da da da. The only other things I'll mention is my no, actually that kind of covers it. It's got all the weapons and the signara and everything. I did put in my signara as dogs barking and everything, just in case. Maybe I cast a spell later. You never know.
Perfect. Lucy, the ghost. I was gonna say ghost munching dog, because you've got Munchie Man the ghost, but doesn't really necessarily work. But yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much. We will have this character join us. Who wants to jump in next?
Well, it makes sense for me to go next.
Absolutely,
as the individual who adopted Lucy, the ghost munching dog. I am going to be playing Barton Oslo, who was born in Yepone. You can call him Barty, Barry, Bazza, whatever. Moved to London though. When he, as you do when you're born in country Australia, you kind of want to get out and see some stuff, and Brisbane isn't quite far enough. Became an accountant for the stability. Always been into photography though, and finally in his late 40s, early 50s, really honed in on the paranormal photography side of things, and now works with the Metropolitan Police to take photos of supernatural crime scenes.
I love it.
And found a abandoned doggo in a church, on the steps of church, and well, getting on in years, and it's just nice to have the company,
We always use a dog. We adopted each other.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's great. And do you want to walk us through? So you've picked the spells Flashbulb, Shield, and Cinderer.
I have picked the spells Flashbulb, Shield, and Cinderer, which is assisting in my paranormal photography mostly.
Brilliant.
I've gone down the hedge wizard path, where this is just something that I picked it up along the way. And while I have taken the oath, I'm not really one of those hoity-toity uppity kind of Newtonian folks.
Yeah.
I'm not all that. I'm pretty I like to keep myself fit, so I'm pretty big, like big and tall, and pretty strong for especially for my age, and I'm not the quickest guy around, but with a constitution of 80 and a strength of 60, I do all right.
Indeed,
I can hold my own. And while I did have to take the magical advantage, I'm going to lean more into the physical combat side of things, of just being large and trying to get up. And generally, I want to get up close to things anyway. So I think there is going to be a methodology of get up close, set the flash off, take the photo, punch in the face, and go.
That's so good. That is hilarious. I love it, and I think that yeah, it totally makes sense that this is exactly the kind of character who, in the books, Nightingale does have a groups of people who are sort of peripherally associated. They are wizards who, a lot of the time, it's just sort of like, I'm going to teach them so that they don't go off and do too much by themselves. Unfortunately,
Because he will.
exactly. You're still doing it. That's great. One last question before we move on. Can't help late 40s, early 50s. Is suddenly getting into paranormal investigation. Suddenly getting into new dog. Dare I say midlife crisis? Did something happen, or is this just the continuation of a long trend?
I think it's just the continuation of a lifelong kind of black sheep of the family.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I love it.
Does what he wants.
Brilliant. Okay, we're good there. Thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
But I think people keep asking if it's a midlife crisis, and everybody who knows him's like, no, he's always
He's
been
just
like
like
this.
that.
The midlife crisis will come long after death.
Consistent.
Or it happened at 12. Yeah, easy. Jackson or Art, either of you have a preference between going first?
Is Jackson related to Alex's character?
You two
No,
would have trained loosely together, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Why don't you go next then, Jackson, if you don't
I'd
mind
love
me
to.
throwing you under the bus.
I'm going to play PC Patrick Lewis.
PC Patrick Lewis. Great.
Yes, who grew up an only child in a relatively affluent family. His parents were, I don't know, some kind of movers and shakers in the corporate or political world. And as a result, he got, with no siblings around, left at home quite a bit, where, he made friends with spreadsheets, basically. Because this is like, maybe he's like, this was back in the time where you could go in and get like computer magazines. I mean,
lovely.
he's going to be a bit younger, so we're not talking about like the 80s, but yeah, like he got computer magazines because his parents are like, well, everyone's going to have a personal computer now. It's going to be the future, so we better get him trained up. And that's how he grew up, just teaching himself databases and data entries, and then realized once he got out of school, he's just got to break out of his comfort zone. He can't live a life of meekhood and misery forever. He's going to do something exciting and join the Metropolitan Police, just because it's not what his parents expected. And so he made it through the academy and the probation and got, sorted into the data entry team.
Yeah, immediately got put as far from the adventure and action you were seeking as could be
100%.
conceived.
But as far as the brush with the supernatural goes, as we know from reading the Rivers of London novels, and this is true, a lot of law enforcement in the UK have a big kind of information database that collects information related to major cases all around the country. That is, of course, the Home Office Large Major Inquiry System, or HOMES. This is true. They came up with this large major inquiry system just to make the acronym work. And so that's where he spends a lot of his time, in the HOMES 2 database. And I also know that, in the novels, they talk about how they always have to make two versions of all their case files. One's the official version with all of the supernatural elements stripped out, and one is the strictly folly-only version. And so I think because he just spends so much time in the database, one day he spotted like this straight up nonsense, wacky, bizarre case file with the supernatural elements, and just being like, well, that doesn't belong there. What is going on here? And so out of an urgent need to have, databases normalized and sanitized and following proper procedures, that's what led him down the rabbit hole to the Folly, who found themselves in need of a data entry specialist who is also a police officer.
Barrels.
This be a warning to everybody working in tech fields out there. If you sanitize your databases correctly, you will become a wizard.
It's true.
Still waiting.
Brilliant. Okay, I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And you buy the book all the way. That is a perfect character. Thank you. Which leaves, last but not least, Art.
So I'm going to be playing Puddin'. from probably, if I can get the accent back, it would be East End London, because that makes sense for where we are. Pudding is a slight, incredibly pale humanoid with slightly pointy ears. Has a absolute shock of like copper colored hair, like pixie cut, but kind of looks a little bit like either recently woke up from a nap / maybe looks electrocuted. And eyes that are just too green, like that emerald that's just too shiny. There's too much green there. It's not right. Maybe with some little bit of like gold in there as well. They look to be in their mid-20s. And Puddin's, as I said, great grandsire was maybe the Fire of London. So they have spent their entire life in London. They know London inside and out. They came to firefighting, I think, in part because they just kind of were found around a lot of fires. And at a certain point, the fire department was like, have you considered, like, this looks bad and maybe you should, like, work for us? Mostly because Puddin was very insistent that they had nothing to do with the fires. They were just kind of always around when they happened. So they started kind of working part-time, voluntary at the fire department. They're not particularly strong, so breaking down doors is not really their thing. But what they can do is locksmith. So they can get into places because fire can get into all kinds of places if you give it enough time.
And I also think that you would probably know a lot about just the way that fire behaves, and you would have been able to advise in a commensurate way.
Yeah, the advisor, a little bit firefighter. Very good at navigating the city. Know it like the back of my hand. In fact, it may in fact be the back of my hand, or at least the back of the hand of my great. You get it. I have Pudding is very specifically like sociable, but decidedly not observant and not stealthy. Again, fire is a complete disregard of how other people feel, and when it's there, it's very obvious. In terms of like supernatural occurrence, I was born this way, baby. I was weird from the day I was born. When that was, I don't know. I think there is one of those, like, the way that they talk about, like, especially the children of the genus Genii Locum, which I think, like, I'm not a child of, but a descendant potentially of, is like they are both actual like beings, like flesh and blood beings, and then also conceptual. So I'm sort of leaning on that, where I'm like, no, I'm a flesh and blood being, but there's also like a weird concept attached. So age and gender and all that kind of stuff is like, meh, you can put whatever you want. They do have to have like actual identification documentation. And on that, their name is still Pudding, but it's their surname. Their first name is Elaine. Because that amuses me. Because Pudding Lane was where.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. So Elaine, even though it is like they never use it, it's just on their like driver's license because they have one of those. And any sort of like official documentation, it says Elaine. They are very specifically, gender is irrelevant, and they go by Pudding.
Brilliant.
That is actually their name. They just need to have another one for social security reasons.
Legal purposes.
Yeah, if you wanna get like help from the NHS, you kind of need some kind of ID.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of, they just sort of exist.
That covers it. We have a quintessential, I feel at this point, Rivers of London squad hitting all of. Do we need
to know each other directly, or just like we've all been called into a squad?
You will all have been. Fortunately, there is an organizational structure here, which is really, really handy from a GM perspective, because you all work with the Folly. You've been pulled in by association, so you would have been pulled in by your work with the fire department, possibly. You are a police officer, Jackson. You've been doing some work doing crime scene photography and also learning because of your hedge wizardry. And Dave,
Leash.
Yeah, exactly. But you were literally pulled in.
Or the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's really weird smells here. Munching
Yeah.
Man must be
Actually, it's
nearby.
probably the other way around, where I was like skulking in the shadows taking photos, and you were just like, "Oh, look, we're going this way."
Exactly.
Check this
Someone
out.
did point out, like, that I think it was Arky Staffin said, "How does the London Fire Brigade find a fire?" And they follow pudding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just, I also do have my Vestigia now, fully.
Brilliant.
It
Do you want to
is
share quickly?
the sound of shattering pottery, the smell of burnt toast, and the sensation is a sudden release of tension.
Perfect.
Yeah,
All
I
from
like
the
that.
table. Great. I love
Lovely.
it.
The pudding in Pudding Lane, it's not pudding. I just looked this up.
What is it?
That's what they called offal, as in like all the
Oh,
bits of the
blood
animal you
pudding.
don't
Blood
need.
Black pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black pudding, and what's the
Eat your pudding.
like a lot of figgy pudding? It's suet, which is the fat that you take around the organs.
Yum.
So like it is animal related stuff.
I'm glad you didn't put that as your signare. That would be more pungent.
The smell of offal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going
So-
very specifically. Although I guess I
That's
could
it.
put the smell of offal
You could, because that's
instead of
what
the smell of burnt toast.
Pudding Lane was the road where the butchers at the market needed to send their offal down to the waste boats at the river, and the road they used was this lane that became known as Pudding Lane.
Lovely.
We just
yeah.
use pudding in the sweet context in Australia, right? We don't really we wouldn't
Yeah.
say it in the savory.
No,
wouldn't
no.
really.
Well, I mean,
Pudding-
except
Don't
for
really know.
blood pudding.
Yeah, individual.
Yeah, which has like
dishes,
the
yeah.
caveat. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's kind of, I mean, I feel like pudding is the same as in this context is the same as pie. You say
Yep.
pie, and it could be a sweet one, it could be a savory one. It really depends on the word you put in front of the word pie.
Everyone has a bit of that. Biscuit in my context is always sweet, but I
Yeah, that's
understand
true.
that is not the case for you. Anyway, as much as I love linguistic diversions, we are approaching a wrap-up time for today, and I think that we have now our cast of characters. As I said, the quintessential spread. We have a sort of interesting character with ties to the demimonde. We have a traditional Newtonian wizard, a wizard from a little bit of a different background, and a dog. The perfect setup, or non-magical, I guess, if you want to be be specific. We will not be here next week because we will be doing
at
other stuff
Chaosium Con.
elsewhere. We will be at Chaosium Con doing.
You might be too. Badges and tickets still available.
You
at chaosium.com.
maybe
someone.
there.
Check it out if
Will
you're
you?
interested.
I want you to be at Chaosium Con.
Absolutely. But
Jackson
we
the
will be
big hat.
back the week after, where we will be playing through Rivers of London. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Alex. Or more accurately,
Thank you, Jim.
thank you, Lucy, Mr. Oslo, PC, Lewis, and Pudding.
Pudding.
Fantastic. We'll thank you as well, audience, and we'll see you shortly. All the best.